everyone. Hold with me here. We're trying to get live over on YouTube as well. I'm also going to send out a push alert on that First Alert Weather app just so people know we're live and can join us. So if you have that First Alert app, you're about to get a push. But as people are making their way into the stream, number one, thanks for being here. Appreciate you joining. Meteorologist Kayleigh Thomas here alongside with you. We're going to kind of go through the details of the next about 24 to 36 hours because we've got a lot of things to track. We have got details that we're still ironing out, and we're happy that you've joined us. So let's get that push alert out. I do believe we are live on YouTube now as well. So if that is easier for you to join us, that is also an option. So as always, you can leave questions, comments in the comment section. And if if you just want to let me know where you're watching from, that'd be great to know as well. So I've started with a look at our next weather maker here. We were watching it all morning, and it's moved a little bit. It's kind of through the four corners-ish and is now starting to push into the state of Texas. So we are seeing out ahead of it a little bit of activity already. We saw a pretty good chunk of thunderstorms move through the DFW Metroplex very early this morning. And then a little bit of shower activity down closer to Robertson and Leon counties, but really the rest of the Brazos Valley things have been quiet and will be for the rest of today. You do see a little bit of activity though south of I-20 there. So we'll kind of watch that. It's kind of moving out of Brownwood and into Dublin. So, and this was where we saw that shower activity earlier today. But this morning, right now, the time reading just after 9:15. It's quiet, but it is muggy out there. It is sticky. It feels I've used the word spring-like a lot this morning because I really do think that's the best way to describe it. And what that is allowing us to do is build up the atmosphere to prime it for that rain and thunderstorm chance over the next about 36 hours. So 72, mid-60s, humidity-wise, it's sticky, it is not comfortable, and again, that is what we are going to use as that fuel. So first, let's break down kind of the overarching timeline here of the next day and a half. So today, warm and muggy, relatively not very exciting weather for Friday proper. Now, as we head into the overnight hours, technically early Saturday, because I really don't think that storm chance picks up until about midnight. And then we see that stay with us through pre-dawn hours. So I think by about 7 o'clock, things are quiet. That's round one, though. New data over the last, I'd say about 12 hours that has come in now suggests that we could find an additional round of pretty widespread rain and thunderstorms. And that could still be quite strong to severe, depending on how much and how quickly we're able to, for lack of a better word, reload the atmosphere with that storm fuel. Rob, we're going to get into future radar here in just a second. And then Gail, good morning. We certainly do need the rain, and hopefully we can get it without too many bumps and bruises of severe weather. So, without further ado, let's jump into forecast radar, except, okay, this is the older model run. So we have a new run of this that is coming in as we speak. We'll check in with that here in just a second. So here we go, Friday. I think we'll find an increase in cloud coverage today. This model has been pretty consistent about popping up a shower or two in the afternoon. I think your window opens at around 2, closes probably about 8 o'clock. Now, these are mainly just kind of sea breeze-ish showers, but they could be a little bit more intense, some rumbles of thunder, some flashes of lightning, but overall I think that's going to end pretty quickly. Then most of us go to bed, things are quiet, and it's once we again officially turn that calendar from Friday to Saturday around midnight where that first complex of thunderstorms is pushing in. So around Milam, Lee County, kind of right at that corner, northwestern corner of the area, midnight to 2. Continues to push to the south and at a relatively good clip, but there's sunrise is around 7:30-ish in the morning, so we could still have some straggler showers behind it, but the storm threat is going to be greatest from about midnight to, let's say, 6 o'clock in the morning. So then things are quiet. George, hail, yes, possible. We'll get into more of that here in just a second. Want to make sure I'm getting these questions in. Ricky, yeah, good point. Saturday mid-morning to lunch. If you have got afternoon errands that you want to run, you want to just spend some time outside, it may be a little muggy, but this is your window because both of our high-res models that we really do lean on when we get to about this far out from an event have clear conditions, especially when it comes to rain. Still have some clouds from about mid-morning through early afternoon even. This is where things kind of start to deviate depending on what model you look at. So we'll go with this older run. This still certainly brings in some additional activity. Starts in a scattered fashion and kind of forms into a little bit of a complex as it moves to the south, but looking at that on forecast radar, it doesn't look too intense, right? Now, I'm going to show you another version of our forecast radar. So it's aligned on the timing. It's a little slower with this first complex overnight. So instead of midnight, moves it in around 1 or 2. So overall, I'll take that. It's slight disagreement, but I'm okay with that. Close enough, right? This one also a little bit more intense. You can kind of see, and this is something that this model does tend to do, is overpaint. But because it is so aligned with what the other model is looking like, I don't want to undercut that. So you can see that white and those pinks, indicative of pretty heavy rainfalls, maybe some hail, and certainly some gusty winds. Once you kind of see that bowing structure, we can look at that C shape or like a parenthesis. That's proof and showing us that we're going to find some gusty winds. This also keeps the rain behind the system a little bit more present, but still, note, you've got clearing from about lunchtime through about 3 o'clock. So overall, I think you have a shorter, quiet window, but one thing I want you to note is in this clear window, there's less clouds. So if we can heat the surface with the sun, we talk about this a lot during severe season, where we can build up that storm fuel down at the surface, and then all you need is lift. That low pressure system is still with us, and it's large enough to continue to lift up our storm chances. So there's about 6 o'clock, we could then have an additional line push through. And this one looks a little bit more put together and stronger than the last model that we looked at, right? And this one certainly is more of a complex of storms versus scattered activity. But still, I do think this is clear of us by about 10 o'clock. Okay, so those are those two models. Those are what I showed on Brazos Valley this morning. Let's look now at the newer version of the first model that I showed you, because it is still coming in. So hot off the presses here. It slowed down that line a little bit, so closer to a 1 to 2 o'clock arrival. You can see the bowing of those sections, so wind concern through the overnight. Keeps a little bit of some straggler activity going. There's your sunshine. There's your afternoon. So it has a little more activity than what that last run had, but it doesn't look as organized. So again, it's kind of, we take what the models are saying with a grain of salt, because it is going to highly depend on what or how much sunshine we can get. So again, this is 4 o'clock Saturday. So this is another change that's happened. 4 o'clock Saturday with the HRRR, earlier this morning had more rain. So it has slowed down that activity, that second round, just a little bit. But you can still very clearly see the difference of these two models, where things are extremely, maybe not extremely, but just more rowdy, versus kind of run-of-the-mill thunderstorms that could still get strong, but it's not as organized. So let me hop over to YouTube real quick, make sure we haven't had any questions there. Okay. All right, so weather for Halloween Town, downtown looking okay for Sunday. Yes, once we get this system out of here, we're good. You may have some like very brief lingering showers behind it, but we're not talking storm potential. So good news there. Dawn is asking for wind speeds. I don't know if that graphic is updated for me, but I can do that right now. I believe this is our in-house model. Yes. Okay, so ignore everything that we just saw. We'll walk through slower. So there's 9, 10, 11, midnight. So note that things are breezy out ahead of the system anyway, but it's those purples and pinks that we really want to watch. That's where the line is setting up. And also note that not all of those purples and pinks are hitting at our forecast locations, so we may not be seeing the highest wind speed, but there's a 32 mile per hour gust in Caldwell, 44 in Brenham. And again, not to say that at 3 o'clock in the morning, a wind gust of 44 miles per hour is going to be in Brenham. An estimate, right, of location, but it gives us an idea. But you see kind of as that system takes that more of a bowing structure, it's easier to find that activity. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip that over to our HRRR and see what it's looking like. If I can. Can I not do that? Oh, I can. I clicked the wrong thing. And as always, if y'all have any more questions, put those in the comments. I am here to answer and help you figure out what's going on this weekend. I know we've got, it's an away game, but there's a Songwriter Festival in downtown Bryan. If you want to go watch the game in downtown, that is an option. So we want to make sure that, you know, you're staying informed. I keep clicking the wrong thing. There we go. All right. All right. Fixing my data. We are almost done. There we go. All right. So I also need to extend my time, I think. I sure do. Okay. That'll be too big of a window, but that's okay. So this is the other model that we were looking at, the more intense forecast. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but because of the weather conditions we have in place, we can't rule this out. And already you're seeing those wind gusts a little bit higher. Got a 55 mile per hour gust out in Brownwood, Breckenridge at 41. And you can see as that line pushes through. Hang on, I think my numbers are a little slow. There we go. So I got 38 in Madisonville as that line's moving in, 36 in Trinity. So right now, at least the model data is not picking up severe gust, but not to say that's not possible, right? So then we get to 7 a.m., give my data a chance to catch up with me. Oh, this is running slow. I apologize. First time we run this model, it does typically take its time. There we go. So there's that secondary line moving in. So gust to 43. Strong, but sub-severe. Certainly still impactful. You got gust to 30, upwards of 35, upwards of 25. So you can kind of see it does look to intensify as it moves south, but we could still very easily find an isolated stronger storm there. So I hope that helped out who asked that. Dawn, thanks for tuning in and asking. All right. Cliff, good morning. Brittany is asking for an ETA on storms moving through Crockett. Let's run back future radar again. So this is I'd say more conservative model about intensity. But this has also been, I'd argue, the most consistent model. So we're going to run with this one for a second. Yeah, Dawn, absolutely. If you have chairs, patio furniture, move that closer to the house. Inside, not a bad idea. Halloween decorations, fall decorations. May want to watch those. So let's look at timing real quick. Actually, I have a graphic that shows that better. Boom, there we go. So, about midnight to 2 across our kind of north and northwestern counties. So, anywhere really from Milam, Robertson, into Leon and Lee counties, and the very northern reaches of Houston County. I know you're asking about Crockett specifically. So, I think as early as probably about 1 or 2 for you specifically, and then about 2 to 4 through the center of the area. And then as that line continues to push to the south, 4 to 6 a.m. And again, this is that first round of thunderstorms. So when we're talking impacts there, wind gusts, this says 40 plus. I need to update that to 60 plus if we can find them, or 40 to 60. Pocket change size hail, certainly possible, because there is a possibility, especially along the leading edge, we can get these little notches where you're finding rotation. Rotation can lead to hail. Rotation can lead to a tornado concern. So that is why we cannot rule out that tornado potential. But for both overnight and on Saturday afternoon and evening, I think the tornado concern is higher the further south that you go, so closer to the Houston area, closer to the coastline. But we could see that activity start here. So we're going to keep a close eye on that. Now let's talk rain totals, because those are at the bottom right there. It will depend on how that second round of rain plays out, right? If we just get that first big push and then maybe activities more isolated, totals will likely be a little bit lower than this. However, if we can get that second complex of storms to move through, I think we could be on the upper end of the range that we've been giving of 1 to 2 widespread, maybe even 1 to 2.5 widespread with localized 4 or more. And you see that here. Yeah, Jen, hopefully so. It's looking, it's bold, but I do have 100% coverage for tonight. We don't often do that, but this looks like it is pretty much going to at least give everyone a drink of water. It's just going to depend on how much you get, depending on where those heavier pockets are. Gale, of course. So yeah, so widespread, this is the more aggressive model, giving us that really big cluster and complex later on Saturday. So I'll show you the more conservative run that still gives us, again, a healthy drink of water, don't get me wrong. But even then, those rain totals are not far off of what we just looked at, right? Maybe a little lower, but 1 to 2 widespread. Localized, anywhere from 2.5 to 4. So again, much needed, especially with how the drought monitor is looking, but we just don't want to find too much of it at once. And I do think that's a possibility. The ground is very dry, so it'll be able to soak up initially, I think, a good bit. However, there's a weird kind of Goldilocks thing you want to find when it comes to rain and how saturated your ground is. If it's too saturated, then it can't take any more water, right? It's just going to run off. If it's too dry, it can do something similar, right? It can kind of be overwhelmed with how much rain you're finding. So we do have a flood watch in effect for our northern counties. That is from the National Weather Service office up in DFW. The National Weather Service office in Houston covers pretty much the rest of the area minus Lee County. But I'm not going to be surprised if we see a flood watch extended because this is a decent amount of rain in pretty much a 24-hour window, a little bit more than 24 hours. No, a little bit less than 24 hours. My bad. Let's talk other impacts. Again, we looked at winds, 40 to 60 plus, especially along the leading edge of both complexes. Then hail concerns, I think, especially as we head into Saturday afternoon, these storms should be more elevated in nature. So hail is slightly more of a concern for me on Saturday. And of course, the tornado concern possible both with both rounds, right? But like I mentioned, a little bit greater, closer to the coastline. Okay, that's that. Let's quickly address what lies beyond Saturday, because I do feel like that's where our focus has been on about the next 36 hours. So there goes that system. Here comes the next one. And this next one could bring a nice push of cooler air. Our American model is a little bit less chilly, but the European model is quite cool. We've kind of split the difference for our extended forecast, which I'll show you now. But the rain this weekend alone should keep highs below average, or at least close to it, so upper 70s, low 80s. Then we start to warm things up. That front arrives Tuesday. Right now, the timing, as early as midday, as late as the overnight. And then we start to feel those impacts Wednesday onward. So highs in the 70s, lows in the 50s. A bit of a treat, I would say, as we approach Halloween. So one last reminder, I've said this so many times this week, but make sure you have that First Alert Weather app downloaded and just kind of your summary of storm potential for Saturday. 2 windows to watch. The first is the one that has been consistent with our model runs, the one that we are certainly more confident in happening. And unfortunately, that does happen overnight. So this could wake you up. And we want your weather alerts to wake you up if there are, if there is active, strong to severe weather in your neighborhood. So have multiple ways to receive those weather alerts from trusted sources. So we have got, of course, the First Alert Weather app. That'll yell at you in the night. Max Crawford's voice will start yapping at you to let you know if there is lightning or heavy rain or severe thunderstorm warning in your neck of the woods. NOAA weather radios, also a great option. So again, 2 windows. Overnight, Saturday afternoon is the newest window. However, still could be quite impactful. So Saturday's not a complete wash, but I think it kind of is on either side of your Saturday, right? So maybe it starts a little bit of as a washout and could end that way for some of us. But there is a chunk of time in the middle where you can get stuff done. Yapped at you for about 25 minutes. Thank you guys for joining, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Again, we really do appreciate you guys tuning in and asking all your questions. We will be, of course, keeping you up to date with the latest on air, online, and on that First Alert Weather app. Y'all stay weather aware this weekend. Have a great one, and we'll catch you on the next one.